In this episode, I have a conversation with Chad Buckland from Worship Leader Hangout, where we discuss how to elevate your worship services through technology. Well, hey there, and welcome to another episode of Church Leadership Lab, the podcast that is all about having conversations that empower healthy churches. My name is Kendall Connor, and I'm so thankful to be with you today for another episode. In our time together, I get to share with you a conversation that I recently had with Chad Buckland. And we discuss everything from leading worship to creating engaging worship services, budget-friendly tech tips. I mean, we just share so much. We had a lot of fun talking. And so I'm really excited that I get to share our chat with you today. I know that I got a lot out of it, and I know that you're going to get a lot out of it as well. Chad Buckland is a worship pastor at Legacy Church in Greenville, South Carolina, where he has served for the past 11 years. He also runs a thriving YouTube channel and podcast that's called Worship Leader Hangout. And for over 12 years, he's been pouring into church leaders around the world through this channel, and it now reaches over 200,000 subscribers. It's pretty amazing. Chad is a husband, and he and his wife get to parent 3 awesome children. He graduated from Lee University in 2010 with a degree in music and worship. I'm excited about this conversation, so let's jump in. Here is my chat with the brains behind Worship Leader Hangout, Chad Buckland. Well, hey there, Chad. Thanks so much for taking some time to talk with me today. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you. I was really excited to get you on here to be able to talk with us. Kind of something that we start with. We ask this question to everybody that comes on the podcast, just so that people can learn a little bit more about you. Is we just read off a big bio about you and learn all that. But what is something about you that really doesn't make that public bio that all of your friends and family would know about you?
I have 3 goats, 2 Great Danes, and 2 cats.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm a kind of a new goat owner, just a little over a year. So
I wasn't expecting the goats. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't really know what all that goes into goat ownership. You have to tell me a little bit about that.
I don't I'm still learning. I have no clue.
Still learning.
But I mean,
okay,
they're doing
that.
good.
I don't know. Maybe that ought to go into public bio at this point, huh?
Yeah, no. Yeah, for real. I have friends that are goat farmers, and they do soap with the goat milk, and they drink the goat milk and all that. I don't have any female goats.
Wow.
But I have weathered goats. So people that know, they'll know. And then anyway, so I'm just getting into it for the first time. So we'll see what happens.
That's awesome. I'm not going to lie. That was a little surprising to me just right out of the gate, I'm liking where this is going.
Oh, it's going.
Okay. Well, other than the Great Danes and the goats, tell us a little bit about you. I know that you are a worship leader. Tell us a little bit about your journey as a worship leader. How'd you get started? What really drew you to that role?
Yeah, I knew that I was called to lead worship when I was 10 years old. So I was baptized when I was 8. Wow. Knowing that I was called to be a pastor of some sort. And then at 10, I was baptized again. And I immediately, when I got out of that water, walked to the changing room, I told my dad, I said, I'm going to be a music pastor. I had no previous music experience or anything like that. My parents weren't really musicians, but I pursued it. And that's sort of how, as far as my mindset, how I got started with that. And then actually getting started in music and worship leading and things like that was just being involved in every single aspect of worship that I could at my local church that I grew up at. So, and we had a decent sized church. So I was able to get involved almost as much as I wanted and serve every week if I wanted to. Nobody said serve back then. I played every week and saxophone, and then started playing guitar and bass. And so I went from there. And I didn't really lead worship with my voice until high school, our FCA type thing. It was called First Priority. And that's where I played guitar and led worship with my
Yeah,
voice.
sure.
And I was an okay singer then, but then I wish I could go back and listen to that just to see how far, how far I've come, how much I've improved. But yep, it's pretty much how I
Wow. I
got
mean,
started.
I'm not a singer, or I don't play any instruments or anything like that. I was just telling somebody that I want to. I've done almost everything in a church except for the music side of it, and you wouldn't want me up there. But coming from someone who has spoke in church many times, I would not want to go back in time and watch some of those early sermons or early
Oh, I
messages.
understand.
We'll just better leaving those things in the past.
Yeah, for real. No, I understand that.
That's awesome. And so, well, yeah, I know that leading worship and being able to stand in front of a group of people and really just kind of course, music is such a big part of it, but also just leading people. Leading worship can take many forms. How would you describe your approach, would you say, to kind of creating that worship experience, that service that just, really connects with the congregation?
Yeah. So I probably don't spend as much time as people think planning, I think, because I do ask the Holy Spirit every week. I have to. I mean, I do spend time with him daily, not necessarily as much as I want to daily, even though, I mean, I can kind of take my time with that in the mornings here, like when I get to my church. Sometimes I'm just human and just want to get right to whatever I'm working on, but I do carve out a specific time to just spend with him, empty my heart, and just allow him to fill me up. And when I get to planning for the upcoming Sundays, that's where I say, what do our people need for this Sunday? What is going to actually resonate in their heart? What's going to change lives?
Right.
What's
right.
And I feel like it's not just like, oh, well, this song will be great. It's also getting at the piano and almost worshiping him by myself and seeing what happens. It's also asking other people on the team, hey, what are you thinking this week? And just seeing what they say, because that question can prompt something that they've been thinking about that's been on their heart. And that's the Holy Spirit guiding me to ask them to what they're thinking. And so, and sometimes it's not just this cookie cutter approach, and it's definitely not my favorite songs. But he just lays it all out sometimes in front of me. And I'm like, wow, that's really good. Or I'll have a song. I'm like, yes, this is a song we have to do for this week.
Yeah.
And based on the key or keys that I could go to, modulate to from that song. Cause a lot of our worship, like the music part of our worship, is more of a medley, more of a flow from start to finish. And so we do like to, like, first song will go into the second song, will go into the third song, fourth, or whatever. And it's not just one after another, unless we have a specific element that we're trying to put in there, like a communion. We do that every first Sunday. So I arrange, sometimes based on the key, I'll look through my list and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is in the same key and it speaks so perfectly with it, or it follows this up so perfectly.
Right.
And then, so yeah, just really just allowing the Holy Spirit to almost guide you in that, because he knows what they need. He knows what he's trying to tell them, whether it's through the music, through the message, through the time of giving. I mean, whatever it may be, but I mean, I'm over the music, so that's my part to play. But
no, that's so good, and probably just a good reminder for everyone who's listening today, who maybe they're the worship leader in their church, or they put the arrangements or the songs together. I love that you said that where you start. You don't start necessarily with the song. You don't start necessarily with what you're listening to, what your favorite is, but really taking that time to just sit down, to slow down, and to really just start by having that time with God and really just hearing, what is right for this moment, what is right for this specific group of people. I think that's so good. And something that we say at our church a lot is, as we're serving and, in different roles around the church, you're responsible for what you can do, but you want to make sure you're doing what you can do so that God can do what only he can do. Right. And that sounds like exactly what you're doing with that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not perfect every time, so I don't want to sound like some, Superman kind of Christian, but
sure,
it's definitely where I have to start because I'm not perfect. I don't know exactly what he wants to do every time, but I have to pursue him every week. I have to, and
that's so
lead
good.
and guide. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this. Not only are you a worship leader and a worship pastor in your own church and serving there and leading a group of people, but you also lead a very successful, an incredible YouTube channel that helps other worship leaders called Worship Leader Hangout. Tell me a little bit about that. What inspired you to start that channel? I've seen a lot of your videos, and I've even watched some of them, and they've helped us a lot at our church. Tell us about that and kind of how that's evolved over time.
Okay. Yeah. It started pretty simply. Me and a friend of mine named David, we had just become worship leaders for the first time. This was back in 2011. I don't know, somewhere around in there. And we graduated from Lee University. He moved somewhere, and I moved to Florida. That's right. I moved to Florida, and we got our worship leader jobs. And I said, I think it'd be really cool. Or we started talking one day about all these things that we were facing, all the issues and other stuff. I said, I think it'd be really cool to have some type of podcast or just a thing where we sit in front of each other on the computer and talk about all the things that we're facing as a worship leader and learn from each other.
Sure.
And it was on an app that you probably remember called Google Hangouts. And naturally, we just called it Worship Leader Hangout since it was on Google Hangouts. And that's where the name came from. And I just let
That's really cool.
I just let it post to my other YouTube channel that, I thought I was going to be some successful, amazing vlogger / skit performer kind of thing. But I just let it post there, and I said, we need to have our own channel. It needs to post to its own thing. So we started doing that. And then I did a video without him because he was busy one week, and I was like, well, I have an idea, and I just started talking about stuff. And then he's a excellent pianist. I mean, just the best, one of the best that I've ever heard. And he said, well, I thought about like showing some things of how I play this or that, or how I've changed the song to sound more gospel instead of CCM. I was like, let's do it. Make it. So he made the first one. I edited it. And then he actually flew over to South Carolina. I already moved by then. And we filmed some together. And man, it just started working. And that became a very successful part of Worship Leader Hangout, as well as the stage designs. And then I also, because I did a couple of videos like that. And then I also went to a church called Lighthouse in Florida a long time ago. This was kind of around the start of everything as well. And I just did it behind the scenes because I liked the way they had things set up. And I liked their stage design as well. So I just was like, filming. And I did another church here near us called Marathon. And it was just one thing led to another. And we started making videos separate from each other. And then we also continued our podcast kind of thing where we, sat like this and just basically he filmed him, I filmed myself, and we put it all together as a video podcast. And and there's actually a lot of episodes. We stopped doing that early last year just because we got crazy busy and the podcast just didn't make sense at that time. And then, and then I started doing the podcast with others. But anyway, as far as the inception or where it all started, it was just wanting to learn from each other. And I had to play a little bit of piano in college just to get through the music program. But some of the things that David showed me while we were here in person filming for the channel actually launched me into becoming a pianist as well. And I'm nowhere near as good as he is, but I can actually say that I play the piano now because of the things that he showed, and that video especially, and then even more from there.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing. I mean,
it makes a difference.
Yeah. So yeah, we just kept making all these videos, whatever was interesting to us, we just kept going.
Right.
And that's where it became
kind
what
of
it is.
how it all got started. No, I love that. And I think the thing that sticks out to me and you saying that is that it wasn't necessarily something that you weren't going out there and searching for to be the next big thing, or you weren't trying to, become necessarily like the YouTube guy or the YouTube star or the influencer. You just wanted to show what you were doing. Mm-hmm. You wanted to, just help other churches and things like that. And, to see how God has blessed it over time and has used it to help other churches, I think is just really incredible. And, just shows your heart in it, I think is really cool. And I'm telling you, even I have seen a lot of the videos and use a lot of videos at our own church. And so I know that they're making a big difference. And I remember it wasn't too long ago that you actually came and in some of the tour videos that you do, you actually came to our church, which is a portable church, and did a tour on that. And we had so much fun that day. And I've probably gone back and watched that video 100 times, just saying like, so this is you made us look so good. I loved it. And I've watched so many other ones that you've gone to other churches. It's just kind of interesting to see sometimes the behind the scenes of what goes into making all of the lights and the screen and the sound and, Sunday mornings happen. So I just think they're really neat. I love the behind the scenes tours.
Yeah. People like them, and I like it too. I mean, the whole point of starting that was to learn what I should be doing as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, I like this, and I took ideas back to our church from those churches.
Right.
I've not done a church or like filmed a church that I didn't take an idea back and, work it for us, because I mean, I need help just like anybody watching this or anybody that has watched the channel. I need just as much help.
Right.
I mean, even some of the stages on videos, I don't claim to just have magically learned all of that myself.
Right.
I mean, I've watched other videos, and then I was able to adapt that into what we do at the church, and even, how to wire a DMX decoder to LED strips in its most simple form. I saw a couple videos that I was like, okay, that was helpful, but how can I make this even more helpful and just spell it out for people like me that need help with that? And those videos have
anyone who's watched those DMX videos on YouTube, it can get, and with the LED strips and all of the converters, it can get overwhelming pretty quickly.
Yeah. And you can make it overwhelming by trying to do things that are much more difficult, which I'm not too worried about that. There are LED strip fixtures, like like actual fixtures that you can plug into DMX that can do all kind of things that cost, $200-$300. If you want to do all that without all the wiring. But I just kept it simple and use the ones you can get for $30.
I think there's many a church out there who have wanted to keep it simple like that. And honestly work on those small budgets, right? You may not have the time or the budget or you may not have the budget to make a $300 fixture, but you may have a little extra time and some extra volunteers that can work with maybe a $50 budget, or in some cases even lower than that, right? To put together those LED strips and things like that. So it goes a long way being able to find those resources online. And I think the thing that sticks out to me in what you're saying is churches being able to learn from each other rather than everything having to be figured out on your own, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I know that on your channel, we talked about this a little bit with the LED strips and things like that, but I know that on your channel, you cover a lot of technical aspects. You mentioned the instruments, but I also know there's audio and stage design and things like that. How do you think that in churches investing in things like that, in instruments and production or tech, some churches may call it, how do you think those elements impact the worship experience? We know it's not really about those things, but how do you think they can bring value to a worship service?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing I did last year at a conference. I did a class. What did I call it? It was just basically like live stream best practices. And the question that I asked at the very beginning is, do you need to be live streaming? I just threw it out there. Like, does your church need to live stream? Could you, and I threw it all out there. I said, could you film your service, edit a video during the week, and then put that out the following week live? Because live streaming is and can be very difficult for people that don't have the capacity or the volunteers or the knowledge.
Yeah.
Whereas it could be easier for them to film and put that out later. And we did that for a long time. And I saw your setup using all the Black Magic gear, the Black Magic design gear. I don't know if y'all still use that, but it inspired me.
Some of the most budget-friendly streaming gear, right?
Yeah. It inspired me because I was like, well, eventually we'll be there. We'll be live streaming. And then midway through 2020, we started live streaming using a smaller system, and then we kind of advanced it from there. All that is really on the channel. But I think that the tech, obviously we're not here just for that. We're here to reach lives, reach souls for the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And good sound is probably my most important thing. I don't necessarily specialize in sound. I can mix and, do setup and whatnot, but I think that is probably the most important thing, because if it sounds bad, nobody's going to want to be there. Same thing with a video. If it sounds bad, nobody's going to want to watch it. And if it sounds bad, nobody's going to receive and hear what you're saying in the way that inspires them or calls them or saves their soul, really. I mean, if you want to put it that way, like they're going to be less, they're going to be like, oh, this is awful. Distraction is going to hit. Like, they're going to be so distracted by the low quality in sound that they're not listening to what the pastor says. He could be saying the most important thing in their, like, they've ever heard in their lives, but they're distracted by a buzz or a rattly speaker, or just something that's not mixed well, not EQ'd well. Anyway. And so I think that's probably the most important. As far as all the other stuff, like, I look at how the tabernacle was built, or I look at like all the detail that they put into that in the Old Testament when the tabernacle was being built, and they wanted it to be beautiful. That's as simple as our stage. We want it to be beautiful or look great, Right. You might not think LED strips or shapes or this or that is beautiful. Some people do. The stage design we have right now, people don't want us to take it down because it's these window designs that I made out of wood, and they're just like, I just can't imagine that you putting all that time into that and then we just taking it down a year or two later. I was like, well, we have to, but we want to just make our house of worship beautiful and just honor God by doing that. And that's really that simple. Is it necessary? No. Could we meet in a building that has just 4 gray walls? And absolutely. Can the Holy Spirit move in that? Absolutely. He does all over the world. But we do have a little bit of extra funds. We do have the creativity that God's put in us. We're going to use it, and we're going to make it beautiful. And know that that's not what we're worshiping. Simple as that. That's
so good.
Live streaming.
Up a little bit.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to cut you off. Keep going.
Oh, well, live streaming is not necessarily important, but we did decide that we were going to, because it was easier as far as time to just put the effort in ahead of time and then not have to do as much during the week. So I just learned, I built a whole broadcast room for that. with the sale of one comm system, which was great. I was gifted a comm system from a company to do videos about. I did the videos. I did my part. They said, do whatever you want to with it. I sold it and bought our entire room with that. And then they also had another unit for me to try out. So we were able to use those for our comm system. It was really cool. Now, one of them's broken since then, so I'm struggling a little bit, but we'll be all right.
You've said so much here. I want to unpack some of these ideas. Going back to the question that you originally asked, you said, should our church be live streaming? And I just want to point out that I think it's an important thing to do with anything you're doing, not just in production or church tech or worship or any of these things, but just in general, to ask the question, like, why are we doing things this way? And I think a lot of times we may get caught in that trap of, well, we've always done this thing, or another church does this thing. But if we're asking those questions, it does lead us to a good place where we can analyze, okay, look, is this important to us? Why are we doing this? Is it worth this much time? Is it worth this much budget? Is it worth all of these things? And sometimes the answer is, well, yeah, this is important. It's worth putting this amount of time and putting this amount of money into, because we'll be able to accomplish blank, whatever it may be. And so I think that's a good point that any ministry leader could take away from this is to start with the why. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And then that will kind of be able to lead you in your decision-making process. But then other than that, I mean, just hearing, so many good things you said there. I love that you mentioned that you had a piece of gear that your church wasn't using at the time, and rather than going and trying to find budget somewhere else, you said, okay, well, we could sell this one item and fund this complete other project that we want to do. I think that's a great example of just being resilient and being a good steward of your resources that you have. I love hearing that. And yeah, we'll have to share some links down and below just so that people can check out your setup. I know you've done some videos on that, and that's really cool.
Now, that I will say, that system, I didn't want to sell it, but because it's a very nice system. But yeah, it hurt a little bit, but every bit of that sale was profit, and I was able to buy the equipment we needed.
Right.
And it was honestly just a straight up God situation.
That's awesome
for us. How are we going to do live streaming with camera operators without a comm system? If you sell it to buy all that, well, he provided. He sent us 2 more.
He provided. Yeah.
So
and something else too that you said was, we have the different elements, stage design and lights and things like that. I love that you said the line, we don't worship those things, but as a part of our worship and just kind of bringing our best, creating an atmosphere that brings honor to God, that points people to Him, is a really great posture to have when you're doing things in tech and setting up your atmosphere and your worship service. I just love that because, you hear critique, right? Of it's not, we don't need this. And you said that we don't need it. We could just have a blank slate. But I know that people who are listening to this today, they have people who are in their church that God has put those gifts into, those creative gifts that have an eye for creating a great stage, who have musical ability, right? To be able to bring great music. And when God puts those people in your church, being a leader, part of it, I believe, is being a good steward of the people that God has put in your community, in your church, and letting them use those gifts to ultimately point people to Him and bring honor to God. And so I think that that's a great example of how people are worshiping in a way that's more than just pressing buttons or playing an instrument, right? It is people using their gifts, whatever they look like, for God. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I do.
Awesome. We talked a lot about technology, right? Let's I want to kind of shift to the worship side. when it comes to using those technology and things, and also you have the side of the spiritual side, the worship side, how can churches find that right balance between using tech but to enhance worship, but kind of also staying focused on the spiritual core of what's important, the message of the gospel being preached and being people getting a chance to encounter God?
I mean, I know this is going to sound super simple, but it really comes down to prayer and your personal prayer life. It does. It's really that simple, because God can align those things in your life. Especially, I know there's a couple things that I was thinking about a lot recently. And I'm like, what am I doing sitting here worried about these things? It's not only is it affecting my spiritual life and my spiritual, like my thought process, but it's also making me not even want to focus on the tech stuff as well. Like I don't feel like doing this stuff. So, I mean, just I don't know, however you pray, however you get alone with God, I mean, just, it's got to be done. There's a pastor. Well, actually, my pastor tells a story, so I'll definitely give him credit for talking about this. But he was talking to another pastor friend of ours, and that pastor schedules his prayer time, his personal, like, alone time with God. And he schedules an hour a day, at least during the week. So five days a week. Schedules an hour a day in the morning, and he prays at night with his family and stuff, like most people probably do. But in the morning he schedules that. And my pastor was like, you schedule your prayer time? Like what? That's kind of weird, isn't it? He's like, well, how many people can say that they pray 5 to 7 hours a week? Like, how many pastors can say that they pray 5 to 7 hours a week? I actually do.
What a challenge.
Because I schedule that. And I was actually there. I wasn't in on that conversation when we were up there with them, but he told us after that, and I was like, yeah, that's so true. I mean, what if he skipped a day? 4 hours a week. I mean, that's a ton of time.
Similar to how you would schedule, a dedicated time to be with your spouse or something like that. You're saying set aside a dedicated time to be able to connect with God. That's so good.
Exactly. And that really challenged me, because, if you just let it, or try to let it happen when it happens, then you're looking at 0 times sometimes during the week where you're, oh my gosh, I didn't do anything. And not all of his hours probably prayer. Maybe his is, I don't know. But I definitely, mine is, as long as you're intentional, as far as when you pray, like, God can speak to you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a full hour of just straight out prayer and crying and sobbing. Yeah. I mean, it could be 10 minutes and he speak directly to you, and you spend time in his word. Right. Like I usually do about half and half, but even still, if it is half, 4 to 5 days a week, then that's still 2.5 hours in reading and then 2.5 hours in prayer. I mean, whatever you want to do is fine, but I think through that time, you're going to be able to not only have things balanced within you, because the Holy Spirit's able to, like, kind of move things around and say, this is what matters, this is what doesn't. Just give you that comfort and strength that you need. You're going to be able to balance the tech side of it too, and realize what matters, what doesn't, what's going to help you, what hurts. There's going to be a balance there. And then also encouraging your tech team, production team, whatever you want to call them, to also do the same thing. And remember, like, what is the entire purpose we're here? Well, it's to reach the lost for Jesus, to build his kingdom. That's why so we're here. And that's what helps. That's right. That's what the tech helps with. Even the lighting, the lighting is another aspect of, like, the stage and the beautification of the stage and the whole area. People are like, well, why do you use the moving heads? We only have 4. Why do you use that? And then the haze and this and that. I'm like, we just wanted to look pretty. It just reminds us of, his creation, the actual sun beaming through the trees in the morning, dew, and it's just, something that's beautiful that we're just trying to replicate. Do we need it? Do we have to have it? No. I mean, there's been Sundays we forgot to turn on the haze.
Yeah.
Guess what? It didn't matter. As far as it just doesn't matter. So there's no reason to argue against it, and there's definitely no reason to argue for it. It's just,
I love the comparison of the lights that you were talking about, the light and the moving heads, or lights shining through the haze. I've never heard that compared to the sun shining through the dew of the morning. That's a really cool. I love that you said we're just trying to emulate something that God has done, and I love that. That's a great way of putting it, and I love the kind of the spiritual connection with that. And just, I know that when I'm out there in nature and I see the beauty of God, it's like, I know that coming from a background I've worked so much with the graphics that go up on church screens and things like that. I know it's just, if you can give that small little chunk, that small portion of just being able to show the beauty of God and being able to create those moments where people can experience visually, pointing people to his his glory, the magnitude and the beauty that God has, it's a win, right? When you can point people towards just how good God is and give them a little bit of reminder, even though you may be in a building, right? You don't have windows all around, maybe, or maybe not. Just a small portion of what you can do on your screen and with your lights. It goes a long way.
And especially the screen. And I know it's very difficult to justify the price of a wall, an LED wall. I know for a lot of churches. So, but the churches that do, and if they use them right, it can be, gorgeous to the human eye. And then using background, and I'm not using this as a plug or anything, but using backgrounds like what you guys make, especially the ones of nature, man, that can really set it off and make it look amazing. And we try to use,
it transports you to another place, right?
It really does. Yeah. Yeah. We actually try to use the real scenes of the backgrounds more than the others, but we use them all. It's just, those are I love so pretty.
The backgrounds. Some of my favorite backgrounds. Again, I'm a nature guy. I love getting out of nature. And so, we have
those are my favorite.
One pack of backgrounds that there's this one that I think about all the time that has a big mountain on it, and it has a cross right up at the top. I mean, it's just, is there any better, in my mind, is there any better graphic to have up there behind your worship lyrics? I don't know. It's pretty good.
Not really. No, it is really cool.
Oh, yeah, we've
used that one.
Quite a bit. It's we'll have to link that up in the notes as well.
Yeah, you sure.
I want to kind of move on because
let's do it.
We've gotten to share so many different things today. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what would you say is one essential component of a healthy church? Right, we got churches who are listening, church leaders listening all over. In your opinion, what would be one essential component of a healthy church?
Yeah, I mean, the leaders obviously need to be praying and reading and spending time with God. We've talked about that a lot. And then I think one thing that's been a big part of our church becoming healthy, I believe, is spending a lot of time together. And a lot of even though our church is bigger than a family church, we still have that aspect of it. And we have church family. So it's pretty cool. So we spend a lot of time together, do life together. Obviously, this is maybe a cliche answer, but it doesn't matter because I think
that's okay.
Spending time in prayer is great. Obviously, probably the most important thing in your word, but also in worship as well, and teaching that the importance of prayer and worship, I think, is a great thing, and worship in all aspects of worship.
That's great. I mean, that's pretty big.
Level,
I mean, prayer is a pretty big thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to cover a lot of it. And then on a practical level, there's things, I don't know. so I heard a pastor or minister or somebody say that he's not worried about like, the condition of the walls and the floors and stuff, because like he knows like that's a church that's being used and being like people are coming in there and stuff. But there's really, 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 really nothing wrong with maybe allowing it to get that way, but then paint's what, $30, and you can paint a whole room for $30. Like keeping your space nice and clean really does. I mean, I know it sounds silly, but I think it continues to help with a healthy church, because people do want to be a part of something where they go, it's nice. It's a nice place to be. And yes, we have our wear and tear here big time, but just keeping up with that wear and tear I think is very important.
I think so too.
But I mean,
I tell our team a lot.
I don't know. But
I tell our team a lot that excellence brings comfort.
Yeah.
And so when we do things in a way, you're like, you're going around. It's like you're hosting someone in your home. When we invite guests into our church, we want things to be tidy. We want things to look right, because that kind of puts people at ease when they come in. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it does go a long way. I love that you said that.
Even if the people that are slobs or don't keep their houses or cars clean, and like when they come in, they'll know when there's like, oh man, that doesn't look good at all. They know. I think it's important. And even our storage areas, as clean as possible, just so your volunteers see the significance of what you're doing. And I don't know. I think that's part of it. I mean, of course, is that more important than the spiritual side? I don't know. Probably not, but man, it really helps.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I agree. Again, removing distractions and creating comfort is something that excellence can do in a big way.
Yes, the smell.
All right. I know we're running out of time here. I want to kind of, if something we do with all of our guests is we do a rapid fire final 5. And I want to have a little bit of fun with this kind of as the last things that I'll ask you. So real quick, a lot of these things coming at you really fast. I want to ask you this. Well, are you ready for these?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, rapid fire. What's one book that you would recommend to all church leaders?
One book is Making Ideas Happen by Scott Belsky, whatever his name is.
Nice. I haven't read that one. Tell me about it.
Making Ideas Happen. He just goes through the process of making an idea
literally reality. Making an idea happen.
Yeah. And
I love
just
that.
It's very encouraging, but also very practical at the same time. It was just I've read it a few times, listened to it as well. It's just a great book, motivator book, kind of book, as well as like giving you practical things. So pretty cool. Also, I did write down, because I saw the question and I was like, oh man, I got to mention Good to Great. I can't remember who wrote that one.
That's a good one.
But you probably read that one. Yeah. It's so, do you remember who wrote it?
I can't remember, but that is a good one.
Yeah. Good to Great. That was a big for me as well. Jim Collins.
That's it. Yep.
Go check it out. It's good. But yeah, Making Ideas. I was very excited about that one.
Okay.
Yes,
Next
sir.
one is, what's the last thing that you listen to on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever you use?
Spotify. So my son loves music, and instead of listening to the terrible kids music, this morning on the way to school, I pulled up jazz kids songs, and there's a playlist that I found, and man, there's, I don't know who it was that did it, but there's a group that did, the European Jazz Trio did Baby Shark. It was really good.
All right, I'm gonna have to pull this one. I'm gonna have to try that with my kids.
Yeah, it was really good, because I like jazz. I don't listen to it all the time, but it is a part of what I've done as a bass player over the years. And anyway, but also a song that we're doing this week was before that, On Time God. And then one of my workout playlists is the playlist is literally called Christian Rap That's Actually Good. You can find it on Spotify. And
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So I got to listen to that. But those are the last three.
Awesome.
But it was funny that you asked that because I was like, yeah, actually, it was Baby Shark by the European Jazz Trio.
I appreciate the honesty on that. Everyone who has kids, they understand.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one is favorite piece of technology or software.
Well, for the church, it's got to be Light Key. There's no way around it.
How about that? So that for everyone listening who may not have heard that, it's Light Key, right?
Light Key, yeah, it's a lighting software. It's the most simple and fun to use lighting software of all time that I've ever used to date. You can partner boards with it, but I'm telling you, it's the way it looks, how you can like make your stage on the screen. All your fixtures are there. You can build.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Like and I mentioned that
it's a great tip.
We just put it in. Well, we put it on our kids' auditorium, and we just put it on our youth auditorium as well. It's a very simple. You can do a 1 or a 2 universe, or even more. But interface for that. It's so simple. Anyway, I love that. It's the best.
Awesome. What is a
can I say one?
Or yeah, sure.
Can I say one more? CMG. It's a website more than it is a software. No, I'm just kidding. But y'all make it incredibly
I'm glad you
easy
said that.
Find stuff.
For those who don't know, CMG, Church Motion Graphics, is part of the Ministry Brands family now.
How do you not know?
But you use CMG backgrounds at your church, right?
Exclusively, yeah. Since 2016. So almost 10 years now. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's incredible. We love hearing that. Okay, but rapid fire. We've got a couple left. What quote or advice that has stuck with you over the years?
One of my favorite quotes for the last 10 years or more. No, not 10. Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. For a while now, I'm going to say it. And then for people that will know, they'll know. But then I'll tell you what it's from. Here's the quote. I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
Hold on, I got to spoil this one because I definitely 100% know where that's from. It's from The Office. Am I right?
Yes. Who said it?
Andy Bernard. Come on.
Andy said that. Yeah. Yep.
That's
right
it.
At the end.
Oh, what a good quote. You're never going to upset me with a quote from The Office.
No, that's
awesome.
It stuck with me, and because it's like, enjoy where you are now.
Yeah.
And that's why, because one day I'm going to think about these times and be like, wow, I had it made. Why didn't I?
I love that.
Yeah.
I tell my kids all the time, don't be so focused on the next that you miss out on the now.
I know. I
love that. Good
and
quote.
Not that Andy wasn't happy to be what he was doing at Cornell after he was at the Office. Like, I'm sure he was happy, but it was like when he thought back to those days, he's like, man, I had it made. Even in all the issues I had with Angela and Aaron and all those people, it's like those were the good old days.
I didn't know that it was going to take a turn like this, and we were going to get to talk about The Office. But I got to tell you, I appreciate it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know The Office almost as much as I know the Bible, and it's sad. It's so sad.
Oh, that's hilarious. All right, one last one. We always ask this. What is one thing that you would like to communicate to our audience of church leaders?
The thing I say at the end of every one of my videos is great worship leaders are always learning. And you can replace worship leader for whatever you want, but always learning. Even when I get to almost retirement age as a worship leader, I still need to be learning because it's never going to stop.
Love that. And I definitely have remembered that from your videos. Tell us where people can follow you. Where can they find Worship Leader Hangout? Tell us about all of your social channels and links.
It's pretty simple. We are on YouTube, Worship Leader Hangout, at Worship Leader Hangout. Same thing with Instagram. It's really the only other place that we do stuff. And then we do have a podcast. We have a backlog, a pretty decent size backlog podcast. And that is on everywhere you get podcasts. And that's Worship Leader Hangout as well. I think Instagram might be WL Hangout, but You can find it if you just type it in.
We'll link all of those up so everybody can find it. Chad, thank you so much for this time today. I appreciate your heart.
Absolutely.
Appreciate how, you've shared really you've been vulnerable with us. You've shared kind of your lessons learned, and it means so much. I know that it's going to help a lot of people as they're watching. I want to take a minute and just thank everybody who has listened and watched along with us today. I would just ask you this: if this has been valuable to you, what we would ask from you is that you would share it, leave a comment, leave a review. All of these ways, they really help us to get the word out so that other church leaders can hear it. Help us get this in the ears of more churches, of more leaders everywhere, and really just help us to empower more healthy churches all around the world. And a simple share does so much. So thank you again for watching and listening with us today. Chad, thank you for being with us. And we will see all of you next time.
This episode of the Church Leadership Lab podcast is brought to you by Ministry Brands, the largest provider of church technology software. Over 90,000 churches rely on Ministry Brands for their single platform solution that brings together all the digital tools a church needs. From online giving to websites to church management software and more, Ministry Brands is leading the way in simple to use, innovative solutions, all with the goal of empowering healthy churches. To learn more, visit ministrybrands.com.